Hello, everyone. Welcome to the GLORIO Chat, the best anime podcast on the internet. I think this is going to be our second to last episode of the year.
The penultimate.
The penultimate episode. We don't play the OP yet, right? We save that for the last episode. But we're getting there.
When we go to space, yeah.
Yeah, when the fight in space.
No, this is the part where we are divided because our most favored comrade has abandoned us.
Oh yes, okay. So we think G has left us, and then he's gonna come back triumphantly.
So he can swoop in at the last moment in the next episode.
Sure.
Okay.
To deliver an epic 30-minute rant about why Vinland Saga is anime of the year.
What have you? Yeah.
Well, I might have something to say about that at some point as well, but we'll see. But yeah, we're kind of. I can't believe we're hitting kind of the final stretch of the season already. A little bit, kind of
collective sigh of relief.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's of course the end of the year, which means we're gonna have all of our anime of the year decisions to make and whatnot. But for now, we've just got some anime to talk about. So let's introduce everybody first. I'm Gel. I am joined by Iroh.
I'm still here. I'm not dead yet.
You're still alive, still with us. My brain automatically wants to say, we're joined by G. It's just like the intro and outro. Yeah. The intro and outro of all of our podcasts is like burned into my, I'm just like an autopilot most of the time. But no, as we mentioned, G is not with us this week, but we are joined by Artemis.
Hello, I am G's bitter replacement. You are welcome.
Whoa. When I'm not on, do you all take shots at me on this scale?
Have you ever not been on?
A few times.
Okay. I know. Well, look, I know you all took shots at me when I wasn't on, so that's
right
fine.
When you went to Boston.
Yeah, well, even saying that
I keep saying that.
Yeah. Although I think I actually did go to Boston in that trip. Anyway, we're also joined by Aqua as
yes. Cuff achoo. It's the sniffy season.
brand new lineup for the GLORIO Chat just dropped.
Yeah.
I don't have Artemis and Aqua. Have you ever been on the same podcast?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Really? Not even one time?
No, never, ever.
Wow.
Okay, all right. Wow. We should have put out a teaser and everything for this.
Yeah. You'll get a trailer for GLORIO Chat 151 here, but yeah, I guess it is pretty rare that either me, Iroh, or G are missing. So
right, I don't think I've ever been on with anyone else in the rotating chair, as we call it.
You've been on with Zig before.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think you've been on with Zig maybe once or twice, but yeah, it is pretty rare that any of us are missing. So
we probably erased that because we talked about Toku for 1 hour.
90 minutes of Toku talk.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into our anime talk, and we'll start with something new, which is the Scott Pilgrim anime.
A new star on the Netflix horizon.
Is Netflix billing the Scott Pilgrim anime as an anime specifically?
Absolutely. They bill anything animated as anime. Anything animated that is not explicitly targeted towards preschoolers is anime in the eyes of Netflix.
I guess it is being made by Science Saru.
Yeah. This show has way more of a claim.
I was going to say, if it has Science Saru, they can claim it as anime. I'm not mad about it.
If we're going by if it was made by a Japanese studio, it's anime definition.
It's got more claim to be an anime than their Castlevania stuff.
Yeah, than Castlevania or even Avatar: The Last Airbender. I think every position on the production of this, except for the writers and the director, is Japanese. So
right,
and even the director, I think, is
Abogongora has
someone who is in Science Saru, even though he's not Japanese. He is from the anime industry. Yeah.
All right, so this is totally random, but I think it's relevant. I woke up this morning, and I don't know why, for whatever reason, I had the theme song to Gem and the Holograms stuck in my head all day.
Okay.
And, Gem and the Holograms being an American cartoon that was, I believe, animated by Toei Animation, as many cartoons were in the 80s. So is Gem and the Holograms an anime by that definition?
Getting into some really...
that is the difficult question, right? I
Or like
mean,
the TMS episodes of Batman the Animated Series anime. Like,
right.
Well, I
It's
think
sort of-
I think in the case of Gem, I think it wasn't like a couple of. I think like the whole series. I mean, don't quote me on that, but if I remember, like it
Mhm.
actually was the whole thing. Was
I
done
think
by
like
Toei, but
the best or like most concise definition you give is that something is anime if production is centered in Japan.
yeah, I
But
don't know.
It's still
Or has it
vague.
become like the JRPG
Yeah.
debate where it's
yeah,
Oh,
I mean that's the
like
thing.
we don't have time. We don't have time for that. But broadly speaking,
all the
I would
like
say this is
writers and
anime.
producers of Gen
Yeah.
were in the West, right? And it's
Yeah,
just they
Right,
just
right.
sent.
But I mean, like, there's a
Yeah.
lot of anime nowadays that is produced by, people from Funimation who are not Japanese.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
So,
Anyway.
I mean, the point is, it's a moot discussion. Something is to me, something is anime when it is, part of
Vibes.
the stuff that people who like anime watch. Just like how I like consider tokusatsu to be quote unquote anime simply because it thematically and aesthetically like
Sure.
overlaps with a lot of what we talk about on
Right.
this blog.
I mean, I think it's fair to say the original source material for Scott Pilgrim is inspired by anime and 80,
Uh-huh.
and 80 like 80s,
Absolutely.
90s Japanese video
Though
games.
what I will say is Scott Pilgrim's not on Nya, so therefore,
Yes, that
how
is true.
anime can it be?
No, that's the true definition of
Yeah.
something that's anime.
Uh-huh.
Is it on?
That is well.
Is it on Naya? Yeah, and I said that.
Oh,
I said
you did-
Naya.
do that to me. Christ alive, man alive.
Anyway,
But hey,
so
Scott Pilgrim
I mean,
takes
there,
off.
there are like concerts from TM Revolution on. Yeah,
also,
does
yeah,
that
which
make
is very
anime?
anime.
Doing all them Super Rod Spirits concerts.
I guess so.
Anyway,
that's
Join us
extremely
next time
TM
where we will be
Uh-huh.
giving our hot takes on, I don't know, Steven Universe and
Oh.
Yes.
right.
Teen Titans.
Yeah.
Fine.
Anyway,
Sounds pretty good. Scott Pilgrim takes off.
Yes,
Yep.
the Netflix anime Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. Again, as is always the problem with us covering anime on Netflix, I believe the whole thing dropped, but we've only had time to watch one episode. Thanks,
Absolutely.
Netflix.
Yes.
Yep.
For me, I'll just personally, Scott Pilgrim always makes me nostalgic as somebody who was a cool 20-something in a band in the 2000s.
Were
But
you dating a high
also,
schooler?
look, I don't want to say anything that's going to incriminate myself.
That's fair. That's fair.
I don't know what the statutes of limitations are, but
Mhm.
I also didn't learn about Scott Pilgrim until I was in my 30s. So by the
Right,
time
right.
I got to it, I was like, oh, look at these dumb kids. I don't ever want to go back to being like that again. So
Right.
it's like I don't feel like it's nostalgic, but not necessarily a great nostalgia for me. But
Right.
it's definitely
the type
it's
of
definitely a thing.
nostalgia that makes you go, God, I was so stupid
Yes,
when I was in my
Mhm.
early 20s.
yeah, and I think then there's also the whole thing of the like, and this probably will get into the anime part of it itself. I believe a lot of people missed the point of Scott Pilgrim when they were reading it.
Including, the writers of Scott Pilgrim versus the World, the live action movie.
Which I don't know if that's what if they're trying to rectify that in the anime here, because let's talk about what happened.
The thing I've heard is that this is definitely a like people compare it to Shin Evangelion in that it is a author coming back to his seminal work to try and reckon with the impact it has had and the personal changes he has gone through since writing that original work. And in that regard, like this anime, like the first episode is a relatively faithful adaptation of the first volume of Scott Pilgrim up until the very end, when something happens that may or may not have massive repercussions on how the rest of the show is going to play out. And based on what I have seen and read, it will have those massive repercussions. Like I've heard a lot of people saying that the side characters get a lot more attention here. Like there's a lot more focus on Ramona, who is always like depicted as kind of, well, the thing is, like the whole point of of Scott Pilgrim is that Ramona is not a prize, but she is framed as such throughout most of the original show in order
Right.
to drive home the point that in the end she is not a prize. But here, I'm assuming they are moving that forward and making her far less of a mystery and
Right.
more of an active
Which is one of the
participant
major
from
when I'm
the
talking about
beginning.
right. When I'm talking
Yeah.
about people missing the point, that was one of the
Yeah.
things that people are missing the point on, right? So
Right. Well, the thing
yeah.
was, the problem was always with the Scott Pilgrim movie is that movie started production when Volume 5 was still being written and came
Right.
out the day, I think, that Volume 6 came out. So they didn't really know what to do with it. Like, they based that entire movie on the idea of, oh, wow, cool video game, indie rocker fights,
Mhm.
bunch of
Right.
like evil dudes to get the cool hot hipster girl. So like the big swerve that those books take in volumes 5 and 6 could not really be included in that final product. And I think because of that, and because we are now in an era when we sort of reevaluate like the nerd culture of the early 2000s 2010, sorry, when that film came out, and like how the public opinion has sort of turned from, oh, it's the revenge of the nerds kind of times, that kind of zeitgeist we had in that era, has now swiveled back around to not
Oh, these dudes
necessarily
are
like
creeps.
not necessarily nerds are losers, but like, oh, the like nerd archetype also has a lot of its toxic traits that we could critically evaluate. I think that was an incentive for Brian Lee O'Malley to go back to that work and sort of try to drive home the original point of Scott Pilgrim again, but from the very beginning this time. Try to like retrofit a lot of what he was going for in those later volumes into the earlier volumes, which was always there, right? I mean, Scott Pilgrim dating a high schooler was always supposed to be, yo, look at this dude, what a shithead. But
everybody was missing that point because they're like, wow, cool
right.
video game indie rock
Yeah,
fan.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think he is like sort of trying to go back to that now, and also putting some of the themes he has been working around in his later works, because I'm the kind of sicko who has read other Brian Lee O'Malley stuff aside from Scott Pilgrim, try to like interject some of those themes of like not just the story of like, oh, the man child needs to learn how to grow up, but some more like nuanced themes that have to do with interpersonal relationships, that have to do with things like guilt, things like repressed sentiments, like all of the stuff that kind of is in Scott Pilgrim in some embryonic state, and he is now trying to retro fit
Bring that
that
more-
into the most iconic, because like the first couple of volumes
Did
are
you,
the
did
most
you watch all?
iconic
Did you
ones.
actually watch all of this show and are holding out on us? Like,
Oh, no. I watched episode 1. Sorry. I watched
Right.
episode 1, but I have read what, like,
oh, okay.
interpretations of what this is supposed to be, and I can see that happening. I can see that in a stage in this first episode. For example, the first episode is not as funny as the movie and the original comic are. Like, a lot of the quote-unquote iconic jokes that people quote all the time have been excised.
Yeah. And I feel like it's a lot more obvious from the beginning that Scott is an asshole. Like,
right.
It's like I don't feel like. I mean, I'm sure people will still continue to misinterpret it because there is a lot of wow, cool nostalgia. I feel like still in this
Mhm.
episode, but I feel like that is more in the forefront, at least in this first episode, and of course, particularly with the episode ends.
Yes.
So
yeah.
I guess that's all to say. This does not appear to like they're just doing a straight up retelling of the story, right? There's going to be a different take on the events of Scott Pilgrim,
Right. And I'm not sure how I feel. I've never seen something like that, and with quote unquote that I mean the like Shin Evangelion / Final Fantasy VII remake kind of thing that has fully managed to convince me. Like, Shin Evangelion did not convince me, and Final Fantasy VII Remake is incomplete, so we can't really cast judgment on that. But that has me both nervous and interested.
Well, here's what I would say on it. Like, if you take Evangelion as an example, I feel like the original Evangelion is fine. It accomplished its purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the original Scott Pilgrim, if so many people were misinterpreting it, did. So maybe revisiting it actually does have a point.
Right.
So
I would mostly blame that on the film. Like,
yeah, I mean, but that's, if that's the majority of how people
absolutely
experienced it, and
which is
even
probably
people
also the reason why Brian Lee O'Malley jumped at this chance to have this made. Like,
and
even people who've seen the story going around on Twitter that like Michael Cera, who voices Scott in both the anime and plays him in the movie, sort of tried to organize a reunion of the original cast, which is pretty hard to do because most
they all
of
went
those
on to be
people,
super famous.
like Chris Evans was in a bit part in that movie and is now like one of the biggest movie stars ever. So he tried to do that, and they basically all decided that like, hey, we want to do another Scott Pilgrim thing because they have such good memories associated with that movie. Right. And apparently that is how this ended up being pitched.
Yeah. So I mean so it is pretty amazing. They assembled the cast from the movie for pretty much everybody for the voices. They got Anamanaguchi for the soundtrack, who they did the amazing soundtrack for the video game. So they got all the pieces together, and it does look cool. I think it's an appropriate style for the series.
Absolutely, and it looks great. It's animated well. It's directed well. The voice acting is good to great, which is not always the case when you get screen actors to do voice acting.
Yeah, it feels maybe a little flat, but it's not bad.
Some of them are better than others.
Better than others. I feel like who is it that plays Ramona? I feel like she's doing pretty good.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Yeah, and there's so many famous people that went on to be so famous. From that movie, but whereas I feel like Michael Cera is maybe not the best, and he's the main character, but I mean he's fine. It's not like
when he puts on like an anime voice, like he doesn't do the oh hey Michael Cera voice that you all know. Like he does a bit more of a peppy like shonen anime voice,
right? Which is fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
So
Satya Baba is pretty good.
Right, really good. Like the one dude from Scott Pilgrim who didn't become famous, and he's like,
you mean the minority doesn't become famous? Weird.
Yeah.
But he's doing a great hamming it up.
Yeah,
definitely. So, I mean, that's probably, all things considered, it's probably the best thing I could have hoped for Scott Pilgrim anime in 2023 . But
yeah,
I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
I'm not going to count my chickens.
I never had like I said, I never had like a strong affection for Scott Pilgrim to begin with. But
well, the thing is, I do like, and not necessarily because I see Scott and it's like, wow, he's literally me. It's just like something I really enjoyed during a formative period of my life. Like, I read all of Brian Lee O'Malley's work afterwards. I wrote my frigging thesis about one of his books.
It's your Biscuit Hammer.
Yeah, it's a thing of mine. Yeah, so I'm really interested to see where this goes and see if I can pick apart any of the interesting things. So.
I think you can buy the video game again too. I like the video.
Yeah, game. They did manage to resurrect that thing.
That video game is only okay.
Yeah,
it's got a lot of style, and the soundtrack is amazing though. I will.
It's mostly known for the soundtrack and the great sprites. Like,
yeah. I mean, good soundtrack, good sprite work. That's enough for it's only, I think you probably get it for like $10 or something. I mean, it's not very expensive.
Shout out to the soundtrack of the original Scott Pilgrim movie, which was like made by a bunch of bands that ended up becoming super famous.
Yeah, that the movie also had a good soundtrack. Yeah. And I feel like they're trying to channeling that a little bit with the still with the Sex Bomb songs. But
yes, absolutely.
All right. So we'll see how the rest of it. I'm kind of on the fence. I definitely am not watching it now because I'm trying to catch up on Vinland Saga season 2.
On the real anime, yeah.
I got enough on my plate, but at some point
Yeah.
I will probably watch the rest of it. So
yeah.
All right. Let's talk about a show that we never properly talked about. I think we mentioned it briefly. But I know, Artemis, you're enjoying this show a lot, so and I don't think you've had a chance to talk about it, if I remember. But,
yeah, I think I briefly introduced it in a previous podcast, but I think probably only the first episode had come out by that point.
Yeah. So we're talking about my new boss is Goofy.
Yeah, and the boss is Goofy, but what I really like about this show, especially as the episodes have progressed, is that, and I feel like I said the same thing weirdly about a couple of other shows like earlier on this year, but it explores trauma in a very unexpected way. And I guess what I mean by that is often when trauma is introduced in an anime, like emotional trauma, it's kind of like my trauma like was in the past and now someone did something nice and now my trauma is solved, like case closed, you know?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And this is definitely not how this anime approaches it. And so even though the anime is largely lighthearted and kind of an easy listening comedy, so to speak, there are some like surprisingly dark moments. Like in a recent-ish episode, the main character is getting texts from his boss still, like actual like in real time texts, or like they're driving in a taxi and going home, and he's getting a text from his boss saying like, "How dare you? Like, you're worthless, you're making new friends, but they're not really your friends. If your boss thinks you're competent, then he's also an incompetent asshole. And I'm going to come to your house, and I know where you live, I'm going to come to your house, and I'm going to, like, stalk you outside your apartment."
Wow, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And it throws the main character back into this kind of traumatic kind of fight or flight kind of, response. And it's just really well done because it doesn't come completely out of nowhere. Like, they kind of keep going back to his previous trauma throughout. But I just like the fact that it gets this response in him and the other characters who know by this point what's happened in the past. And it's not just brushed under the rug.
Right. Yeah, and just to remind everybody, when you're referring to like the trauma, like this is the main guy, his previous job as well.
Right.
As you're saying, his boss texting
at a black company or whatever, I guess, probably. But specifically that boss, like verbally abused him. It was in the most recent episode, like there's a flashback where he actually gets kicked in this, like just straight up kicked in the stomach outside a bar by his boss who was, I guess, drunk at the time. You know, Japan's infamous after work drinking parties that you must you're obligated to go on if your boss asks you to go drinking. And yeah, it's just like, again, weird to say in a series that's overall more lighthearted and comedic in nature, but it's just integrated really well. And then I've seen some people also say that the anime is queer baiting, which I completely disagree with. I get that some people would watch this and feel like the main character and his new current boss are kind of hinted to be some kind of romantic item. And then because the romance never becomes explicit, it's queer baiting.
I mean, at some point, the whole queer baiting discussion becomes very muddy when we're dealing with anime, simply because Japanese customs about portraying romances and making that sort of stuff outward are kind of different.
Unless it's explicitly marketed as a BL series, and this is not. You're not really going to see it in a mainstream, like, aired on television show, right?
People in general just on the internet will see any two characters be in the same frame together and start thinking they have a thing.
Well, Artemis, are you saying there's not something going on between them, or you're saying that it's not?
I don't. To be honest, I don't really care whether there is or not. I don't think that's the point of the show at all. For the record, it is never explicit. Like no one ever on screen is kind of, like making eyes or anything. There's a lot of blushing and awkward laughing, but it's more I don't think it's ever really presented as a romantic thing as much as some fans would like it to be. So
I mean, I could see, because I remember in the first episode the main guy's heart's going doki doki a lot around his boss, but it's like, all right, it's fine, it's just cute,
I will say that at this point they are straight up living together.
Okay, well,
because
at some point you know what they're doing, right? There's like a long-standing tradition of portraying romantic friendships in anime, and we can argue until the cows come home about whether this is about homophobic censorship or anything like that. It's just that is kind of how it is in the genre, and at some point, as a fan, you sort of need to accept the fact that you can interpret things the way you want them to, and maybe you should just, I don't know, maybe I think it's a waste of time to get angry that something isn't the way you want it to be, as long as there isn't any nefarious intent behind it, because there's a big difference between actual factual queer baiting, as in producers of the show who really try to use that as a marketing tool without engaging with it in good faith at all, and simply the authors wanting to leave something up for interpretation. There's a big spectrum between those things, right?
And from Artemis, from what you're saying, it's not the point in the show, right? It's not like there's.
I don't think it is. I do think the creators knew, it's fairly, I get that it's slightly more than slightly, it's completely ambiguous, and that the creators understand that this is an ambiguous thing. But I get the feeling from the show. I don't know about the source material, but the show, at least, I get the impression that it's very much a kind of you do you, fam, kind of thing. Yeah. If you guys want to see these two characters as some kind of item, by all means. But that's not where the show was never going to say so.
Right. It's not like they're doing
show anything.
Oh, I have feelings for him, but he's a guy type of thing.
No. Right. And there's one character, like a different character, who says in a previous episode that he likes guys and girls.
Yeah.
And no one, the main character, reacts with shock because he said that in a public place. Whoa, I feel like this guy just said something wild, but no one else reacts. They're just all right.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's
which is also pretty nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
and they never really go back to it.
Probably more tolerant than most actual BL and Yuri manga can go. And
the thing is,
at some point, an author has the freedom of simply not of saying this is simply not the story that I am writing. I am writing a story where these two are close, but I'm not interested in writing a story where they are romantically involved, and without casting judgment on whether they should or should not be romantically involved, or whether that's a good or a bad thing that they are romantically involved. I think an author has the right to just say, this is just not what I set out to do when I started writing this. Right.
Yeah. And that's correct, and also probably too nuanced for a lot of the internet to understand. But
see plenty of people on the internet complaining about things not being what they want them to be.
I mean, you should just watch a canonically gay anime like Love Live.
Given. We can watch that. But no, I mean, but
it's
the
funny when you give an actual example.
I guess the main point of this anime is it's a much more it's a healing story, right? It's
a healing story, and when they're not busy doing that, they are just doing office shenanigans that are completely ridiculous, innocuous, easy watching. So for me, it kind of combines the best of both worlds there, and the kind of the real trauma, healing from trauma stuff, and saying that Just because you switch jobs and have a better life now doesn't mean you're going to be automatically fine.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Plus the, romantic or not as the case may be material kind of really elevated the show above just it's a nice weekly watch, I guess, kind of deal.
Right.
Yeah.
What if they in this cute office comedy also had a shitty robot that they had to pilot out to fight monsters?
Oh no.
No.
Sorry.
You take that back.
We'll talk about Bullbuster later, right? But okay. So that sounds cool. What sounds less cool is some of the things I've heard about Jujutsu Kaisen lately, Pyro, and you're the last person standing on the podcast currently watching it.
Is out.
Since G is out, yes.
Probably the clearest thing I can say about Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 right now that will make you all immediately understand is that both of the 2 episodes since the last podcast have been about a character being killed by the villain guy purely to motivate the main character into fighting him harder. Like you have them fight. You have this character fighting a bit at the start, and then they get hit with some sort of fatal blow, and we spend half of the episode on some hackneyed flashback / dream sequence about them, and then they look at the main character's eyes and tell him, it's all on you now, and then they explode or whatever, and that has happened 2 episodes in a row with 2 different characters.
2 people died?
Yeah.
All right, we'll put the spoiler flag on this one. Who died?
The blonde mentor dude with the 7-3 power.
Oh, with the glasses?
Yeah.
So 2 of my favorite characters died.
Yeah, so he has his whole episode where he fights a bunch of dudes and then has his...
I knew he was going to die, but yes. Yeah,
and, sure. Dies purely to motivate the main character. And then Nobara, our favorite...
main female character in the show.
Favorite cool lady, murder face, hammer and nails Nobara. Also,
love her.
Yep, fights the Scarface dude and dies, and we get this incredibly hackneyed, overlong flashback about her childhood that has zero bearing on anything. And I understand why this type of show has these sorts of flashbacks to make you care about the person who's just about to die, but it's so transparent now, in the way this show's been doing it. It's so incredibly transparent that's we're going to waste 10-12 minutes on this flashback. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I care more about this character because their head's about to explode, and I know that their head's about to explode. So why are we
at least in the case of the first death, Malaysian Airlines got to plug their tourism.
Right? Yeah, that's right. Because he's drinking in his mind space. I really wanted to go to Malaysia and retire on the beach.
Okay.
Right. But
yeah.
And it's just so transparent that you have the only female character of the main trio, our cool, strong lady who literally just gets touched by the bad guy and has to go and look into Yuji's eyes and say oh, it was a good run, and then die purely so he can get
mad.
Extra super duper mad at this bad guy, right?
So he can go Super Saiyan and
whatever.
Right.
It's just so uninteresting.
Yeah, we've seen this. I mean, this is this is why I had you guys watch season 2 ahead of me to tell me if it was going to be
Canaries in the coal mines, what you said, right?
Yeah, you guys were my canary in the coal mine on this one, because to refresh everyone's memory who wasn't around when season 1 was airing, we enjoyed season 1. That's why you guys watched season 2, and in particular the back half of season 1, because they established this really great cast of characters that had good chemistry, and it was a lot of fun. And
none of that is continued, really.
None of that has been. So it appears that was an anomaly, and instead, Jujutsu Kaisen sounds like it's just another basic ass.
It's just
shonen battle show.
I don't care enough about any of these characters really to feel anything when some of these characters I don't care enough about to care when they die, and then for characters I might actually care about, so many people are dying over and over in quick succession that I feel nothing. Right. It's like none of this matters anymore, and because it is all explicitly to motivate the main guy, it's like, well, this character's interiority has no meaning anymore because
your only purpose was to power up the main guy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
is Maki still alive?
So she's like been immolated, like, right, and I know that because I've heard spoilers for the manga, I know that Maki is alive, but she is like horribly scarred,
and
burned,
effectively out of the picture at this point.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Every fucking Shonen Jump battle show, must hit its peak and then fall down into the depths, and it just seems to be a matter of when those two things happen. Right?
Yeah. I think we're mentioning specifically like Nobara and Maki and the female characters because when Jujutsu Kaisen came out, a lot of people were like, "Oh, this is different. They treat the female characters so much better than your typical shonen show." And that was kind of true. Like I wouldn't give them that much credit.
The thing is, we're grading on such a bad curve,
right? Like technically, yes, it was better, but it was not like great, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there were like. I mean, I'll give them some credit. Like the final battle of season 1 is Yuji and Nobara effectively fighting as equals on a team, right? Like, you know, they at least got to like fight with the boys, right? Like it was, and Maki's super badass, and like, you know, they had, you know, so I mean, it was better, but apparently, we're just gonna keep doing the
And I mean, and I can't think of a single fucking one of these types of shows where the female characters like matter to the plot. Or like do anything cool, and no, One Piece does not count.
Yeah, right. One Piece is its own entity at this point, right? But also, yeah, we won't get into One Piece. But all right, well,
yeah,
I guess
just gotta wait for the next one or whatever. I don't know. Who knows? It will ever happen. Will it happen in my lifetime? Who knows?
Yeah, I think Shonen Jump has their formula, and they're only going to allow straying from it so far before they got to rein it back in at this point. But it's disappointing. All right, let's talk about something more fun.
Sure.
The Apothecary Diaries. Mm-hmm. How's that all been going?
I guess we probably should have done Spy Family because that's also Shonen Jump. But that's fine. It doesn't matter. These are all returning. Anyway, Apothecary Diaries. It's all right. It's okay.
It's a good time.
Yeah. It's nothing like
Artemis. I don't think you've had a chance to talk about it. How do you feel about the show?
I enjoy it. I was pretty iffy. I was iffy a bit after the first couple of episodes, just because of some stuff that didn't jive with me regarding like the kind of callousness of certain comments. Like, I get that the main character is supposed to be a very pragmatic kind of, I'm just in it for my own survival. I don't really care, and plus, like, I've seen death millions of times, so whatever, like, it doesn't concern me type of person. But some things she says, I'm just like, do you have no empathy whatsoever?
Right.
15-year-old edgelord.
15-year-old teenagers don't have empathy.
Right. Well, yeah, that's a good point. But I do think the anime has actually gotten better over time.
Yes.
In that particular regard, at least. So I'm enjoying it overall. I don't think it's going to be like a top of the year or anything, but it's solid. Is
there anything particularly fun or noteworthy from the past 2 episodes that happened?
This is kind of like a 1 ear in, 1 ear out kind of show. Like, you put it on, you watch it, and it's like, that was nice. And then you're like,
I mean, she did go home. She went home. Which was kind of fun because you got to see her dad, who was quite an interesting character, I would say.
Yes. Yeah. So because she uses with some of the hairpins she got at the party to call in some favors and exit exit the palace for a few days.
Right. She gets like, I think she gets 3 days to spend at home or something like that.
Yeah.
And her dad, like, and no one knows what happened to her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she got kidnapped, right?
She was kidnapped,
she just straight up disappeared. And although I think she does mention at some point in that episode that she sent like a message home at some point. So presumably,
she's been sending letters.
Yeah.
She does mention that.
Right. So her dad at least knows that she is alive. But this is her first time seeing anyone from home since she got kidnapped, which has been, I don't know, like a year maybe at this point, or
several months.
Like a decent amount of
several
time.
months.
Something like 6 to 9 months, I believe.
Yeah.
What I will say,
is it like she's like originally from the country or something? And they
she was in the like red light district, the pleasure district, which is actually like kind of right outside. Yeah, like right outside the palace. Just
so
the palace is enclosed, right?
Right.
So she's stuck there. What I will say is, like, I know this show is going for 2 cours, and the homecoming stuff is setting up a lot of plot threads that will probably not be picked up on for like 8 to 10 episodes. I know from reading the manga, like it's interesting that the show does go back. I quite like that about the show. I was gonna say I don't know if the show was worth 2 cours, but then I thought, I kind of like that they drop some plot threads and then don't go back until later, because it surprises you when it does happen, but in a good way. Right. I'm thinking about the manga and like judging on what they are doing. There will be like, we will have like a season climax, and then there will be like a climax for season 2, right? And some of the stuff that they are seeding is for like that later climax, and not the not the closer one. So like, for example, there's just the brief scene where they're like, "Oh, did you go visit the annex behind the brothel?" And she's like, "Oh, I better do that." And then that's pretty much it. Is all we get, right? And what's with any of that? Why is any of that important? Maybe we'll find out later.
Oh, okay.
I know why, but maybe we'll find out later.
Okay.
Yeah. Like Akuya said, it's not a show that like it's not a barn burner every week or anything, and it's not like bad at any point. I don't think. It's just kind of there in a good way.
I will say, like, every time like Friday night rolls around, I do look forward to seeing it. It's not amazing, but it's a show that I do genuinely, low key look forward to.
Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of like the show that you just watch to like check in with your old friend Mao Mao to see what sort of dumb shenanigans she has to deal with.
Yeah, what hijinks, what poison do you get to try out on yourself today? Is it exciting?
And it's weird that Mao Mao is such a compelling character, because she is like
this comically perfect teenager.
She has like traits that you would find unsufferable in any other character, but it's just a combination of like her like cynicism, Aoyuki's performance, and also just the fact that like these characters always act like everyone around them is an idiot, but in this case everyone around her actually is an idiot. So it kind of works.
I do think she's at her most interesting when, like, for example, at the end of the most recent episode, Artemis, where she's like, "Well, if I'm ever to be executed, execute me with poison, please."
And she said it in a very like an absolute seriousness. She, and the guy's like, "What are you talking about? I would never." And she says, "It's not a case of like, do you want to or do you not? It's a case of can you or can you not?"
Right.
Like, because she understands that her life essentially to most of the people around her is completely worthless.
Right. She is expendable.
Right.
Like, I think when she is showing that sort of like wise beyond her years cynicism about like her place in the social hierarchy. Like, I think that's when she's most interesting. Because
I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Just there are ways to have teen or younger characters like be cynical that can be like a really tiresome, or it's like
right. Yeah, it's like, what have you been through, kid?
Right?
Come on, yeah.
Right,
yeah.
but like because of the setting and like world building, her being able to be cynical about that, because she also grew up in like the pleasure district, and which is the weird mix of low and high societies, right? Like,
yeah, even if they're kind of having their cake and eating it too, because it's always like, oh, Mao Mao has to struggle to survive in the court where she is at the bottom of the pecking order, but also she gets like hairpins from a gazillion dudes and everyone loves her. Like,
right. Yeah. But what I think I do like about Mao Mao is that even though she is cynical, I feel like most other anime characters who are that cynical are also, they don't care whether they live or die. They're kind of like,
oh, like they're so
this is my life. I truly don't care. Like whatever. But she wants to live. She's not sad. She's not like she wants to live. She enjoys living. She has stated several times that she will do whatever it takes to survive because she enjoys her life, like regardless of what happens in it. Basically, right? She's having a good time.
It's just the like reality of her social standing.
It's just that she also knows at the same time that she can die at any time, and so if knowing that, she wants to control her fate as much as she possibly can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
it still sounds like a solid show.
I do think it like gets better as it goes on, because as the characters and relationships sort of get more time to flesh themselves out.
Yeah, and every time for at least for me as an anime only viewer, every time there's a like, aha, they did bring that back kind of moment, it does the show credit, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's often the case with these kind of shows. You just need time, and then one day you realize, oh, I actually like these. I'm actually, I actually feel really attached to these characters, right? Because they take the time to do it. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I guess speaking of another, what's usually a chill show, but maybe not this this particular block of episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about.
She killed a lot of dudes, man.
They were all comically evil assassins.
We're talking about Spy Family season 2.
John Wick 5.
We've reached the climax of the boat arc where Yor murders everyone.
Yep.
Hey,
hooray!
It always feels weird to me when we get the massive amounts of blood and murder, even if it's kind of like. Even if it's kind of silly and like ridiculous, it's also like compared to the rest of the show, like, a little weird.
Stabbing out these
there were also like a couple of moments, albeit brief, that were like pretty graphic considering.
Yeah. Like the show has had like graphic quote unquote violence before, but it's mostly in the context of like jokes, like. Like the joke of like Anya reading Yor's mind on the like bring your child to work day.
right. Or
this is just like this is like actual combat with stakes and people genuinely die in horrible ways.
And there's I think for me it's like when we get to the big fight scene and there's just literally comical amounts of blood spraying everywhere while the insert song.
Right, like
I'm assuming it's actually Sayori Hayami singing the insert song, and
I'm not sure.
It almost reminded me of like
in sync with the blood sprays and the
it was like straight out of Akiba Maid War or something, right? Like just
but it is kind of odd because like Spy Family is generally a very, very family-friendly show, right? Like you could show this to your little like nieces and nephews.
Yes, my niece literally watches this, so that'll be
You might not be able to explain some of the jokes, but generally,
yeah. But I mean, there are even kids shows that have jokes that like kids don't understand.
Right.
They just find it like funny because the character is like screaming or whatever.
Right.
But like this is some like stuff where you're like. Also because it's not necessarily like the blood and the violence, it's mostly like the context. Like these are actual stakes. Like these are actual bad guys who want to kill a child, and Yor has to like murder them to not make them kill the child, which is
not
surprisingly dark for this show.
Yeah. I mean, it looks cool though.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks great. This is a good looking show. Still.
Yeah, and I think particularly because my only criticism of the boat arc so far has been like, even though, well, not even so much that it was long, but even though Lloyd and Anya are there, they haven't done anything up until like this last episode, right?
I mean, they're there because this is still Spy Family, so there need to be jokes. Like,
yeah. So I feel like, and I think that the latest episode is like when they're actually involved. Like that's when Spy Family is at its best, when they're like all involved, right? And,
but it's pretty convoluted to like create a climactic action scene where Yor, Anya, and Lloyd can all be involved even when they cannot be together because they cannot find out about each other's secrets.
Right. So it's hard to do, I get it. But like I do feel like
it's always Anya running between and like doing something to set in motion.
Because I feel like the build up with the Yor questioning her job and all that stuff was, and like her conclusion kind of doesn't really make sense, but whatever.
I mean, the thing is, they probably like. I'm pretty sure that the author never really thought about Yor or what drives her. Like, I think she was mostly supposed to be like. The thing is, like, she was set up mostly as a contrast to Lloyd. As in, she is also a like works in the quote unquote shadows, but she's on the opposite side, right? And from that point onwards, like they built out her character, but I don't think they ever really put thought into like, oh, what drives her, because that was never part of the point. Like,
and so I also, as a viewer, do not actually care. Like, I like her as a character, but I don't care really that much.
The show is about Lloyd's mission, and your presence in that is mostly a joke. Like, so, but I get the character got really popular. Like, if you read like reviews of Spy Family, it's always like, oh, where's Yor? I want more Yor. Why can't Yor do anything? So I suppose editorial just caved and asked the author to write a Yor arc. Well, like you can see that it sort of struggles to, because this arc feels different from other Spy Family arcs. Like, it is not as comedic, and it is more focused on the character questioning their motives, and you can see that this is kind of material that the show somewhat struggles with. Maybe, it's not bad, but you can see that Spy Family is not 100% comfortable doing this kind of stuff, right?
So yeah, I mean, and I'm with Artemis. Like, I really don't care either way, but if you are gonna bring it up, I would like at least some kind of thought put into it, I guess.
Right. I mean, this is odd because Tatsuya Endo is like did write some like way darker, more like in like psychological stuff in his past, and like there is a long-standing, I think G also addressed this, that there's like a long-standing rumors of a long-standing tug of war between him and his editor, and that his editor keeps asking him to, put in jokes, whereas Endo wants the story to be a bit more serious and character focused, but the editor always has to reel him in. I don't know if this is true, but you can kind of see it, right?
Yeah. I do think you could have just taken all of the Yor questioning yourself stuff out of this arc and it would have been fine. Like,
I think also because it's presented as mostly just internal monologuing, so there's not really anything, like, even if you did care, like, especially about her motives deep down, it's not necessarily the ideal way to explore it because she's just sitting in a chair thinking.
Right. And the thing is also, like, it's odd that the show feels the need to have to explain Yor's motive, because it doesn't really do that for Lloyd. And maybe it's because of the idea of that Yor's job is quote-unquote evil because she's an assassin, whereas Lloyd is heroic because he's a spy, even though what they do is pretty much exactly the same. Like, they both kill people who want to destabilize the peace between East and West.
The show establishes that, like, Lloyd is doing it out of, like, a sense of...
Yeah,
you know, like,
he wants to protect the smiles of all children.
Whereas, like, Yor is kind of, like, almost ditzy, working for some guy who is probably who may or may not be doing that for certain motives, but she is not doing it out of like an ideology.
She just does it because this is what she's good at, and it makes money. Like,
and I think all they were
honestly.
Fine. Yeah.
I'm fully on board with that reasoning. Like, I don't need any other motive.
Same here.
Yeah. And ultimately, I think they're just trying to, because on Lloyd's side, his conflict is I actually am enjoying having a family, right? Mm-hmm. Even though this is, but I have to keep focused that this is a job. They're kind of like finding Yor's way to bring her back around to. I want to be part.
The thing
like
is,
they just want them all to want to be a family, right? That's what they're trying to reinforce.
But the thing is that Lloyd's conflict is funny, whereas Yor's conflict is not really funny. It's like
doesn't really make any sense, So anyway, I'm not leveraging any like super harsh criticism on Spy Family here.
I think,
it's just
I think like Yor's conflict is mostly about I don't want to be exposed because I will be, like, deported if people find out that I'm a single woman in a fake marriage in her late 20s.
Right, when her imagination runs away with her on Lloyd kicking her out of the house.
That is something that doesn't really have anything to do with her assassin job.
Right.
But I still enjoyed the episode, even if they weren't the best. I think they were still fun. And Anya, as always, just stealing the scenes with her.
Just as asides
and saving Yor's ass multiple times.
What I'm saying,
from either her life or just being exposed. And she's just, I think I like Anya best when she's faking excitement at something. It's just like, yay! Look at that awesome lady at the circus, everyone!
Yeah. I'm playing with this ball. Oh boy.
No, so I just dropped this cool picture of my super awesome dog.
Yeah.
Maybe what we're really saying is Anya just needs to be in every episode. And
hot Spy Family take. Anya is the best thing about the show.
Truly, I know, very original.
GLORIOblog.com.
Yeah, she was the one who makes her family.
Yeah. What were you saying, Artemis?
Oh no, I was saying yes. Very original of us to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Say so. I'm sure no one has come to the same conclusion at all.
Yeah.
All right. Well, another shocking conclusion. Spy Family still good.
Yep.
You heard it here first, folks. All right.
Speaking of smug-faced anime girls voiced by Atsumi Tanizaki.
It's true.
Is it the same voice actress?
It is, yes. Anya's
that makes a lot of sense. Yes, let's talk about Frieren Beyond Journey's End. We get a little more fun type episodes after the battling the demons this week.
I've heard men really like Frieren Beyond Journey's End. I've heard you should gift men Frieren Beyond Journey's End.
I do love. One of my favorite things about Frieren is that yes, Frieren is stoic, immortal, silver-haired elf lady, but she's also has immense gremlin energy.
Right. Like, the thing is, like, the comically serious is an absolutely brilliant character archetype if you pull it off well, right?
Right. And she gets a little saucy in these episodes, which is pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
With so we had like Stark's birthday, and then which again, shout out to the giant hamburgers. Another one of my favorite things in the show.
These episodes are collectively like the mini arc about the hero's sword in the cave, where we find out that Himmel failed to pull the sword from the stone when he was not the prophesied hero.
I really like that. He's just some guy.
Actually, just leveled up enough to kill the Demon King anyway.
Right.
And then we have the Stark's birthday segment, where we explore his past and motivations.
get a little more with him and some fun jokes.
Which is where we get the now memeified template image where Frieren is holding the clothed dissolves potion. Is like,
I will be very disappointed if the dub doesn't make a single joke about Stark naked.
Yes, it seems like an obvious one.
Yeah,
but,
the meme template where she's holding the potion and saying, "My master said men love to receive this as a gift."
Oh yes, yeah, right. Just insert whatever into her hand for that, right? But so that was fun. The second episode, we get our final party member. I don't know what happens.
I wanted to say before we move on to that is that like penultimate episode also serves really well as a sort of cementing the dynamic in the party
of the group. Right,
because like Jel, you mentioned earlier that you're like, it was hard for you to get into the show because the characters are all very stoic.
Yes.
And I think that at this point they have, like, we've had their backstories, they have gone through major like inciting incidents, major plot events, and like you get a better grasp of their personalities now, and they have more clearly assigned roles now. That, like, I mean, they're Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, right? Like Stark is the sort of like emotional, common sense kind of guy. Frieren is like the stoic cold one with a weird edge, and then Fern is the one who has to like keep them all under control and be the grown up in the room.
Right. Yeah. So they've definitely, and I think it's not just like it's not that they were doing a bad job of it before. It's like they allowed the characters' relationships to develop, and that drew out their personalities.
Right. And they also allowed the characters to be more than just their one trait. You know, they allow Frieren to be goofy sometimes. They allow Stark to have moments of introspection and like sensible thought, instead of always being, you know, the I'm so insecure but actually super powerful. That is like the core concept of his character, right?
So
yeah.
Therefore, let's add somebody new to the dynamic.
Right. The fourth party member.
So
judging from the pictures I have seen, this is like your token, quote unquote, old guy who's like a guy in his 30s.
Right.
Pretty
much.
Yeah, so he's actually like probably like 30 or something, right?
Yeah.
I guess all priests are corrupt in the Frieren world. Is that just
drinking and the smoking and gambling. I think there's a really solid gag subversion here where he's gambling at the inn or whatever, and Stark comes in also to gamble. Like, you gamble with him, and of course, so you smash cut to Stark is naked because he's been fleeced and lost everything, and
thrown out in the snow.
But we cut to like the priest guy's face, and it's like you think for a moment, like the sort of standard way to do this joke is he fleeced Stark from out of everything,
right?
But now we zoom out, and he is also naked because he has also lost over all his possessions.
Yes,
he's like equally as much of a loser.
Right. They're both dumbasses. Fern has to come bail them out. Mom has to come pick them up from.
The chief is like, oh yeah, he just gave everything back because the chief didn't know what he was going to do with a giant fucking axe. Like, he can't do anything with this shit.
And then the bit where Frieren tries to quote unquote seduce him to join the party
because he likes older women. And Frieren is the oldest woman of them all.
And she uses her ultimate seduction technique, which, if you haven't seen it, just watch it. It's funny. But
this is sort of a takeoff on how in Dragon Quest games, the designated sexy lady character in any given Dragon Quest game usually has some kind of status effect track about them being sexy and distracting people.
Yeah,
right. Frieren does puff.
Does the sexy beam,
Frieren basically does puff. Yes, and it's hilarious. So yeah, I I enjoyed. I was curious if we were going to get another party member because I haven't read the manga. I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
So
I mean, the heroes party had 4 people, and now we have 4 people again. So
and you got to have a healer, right? I mean, that's just standard good practices for your RPGs. And yeah, so it's funny because like this, it feels like because we're like on episode like 15 or something with the 13, show at this point, right? Because they dropped like 5 episodes, but it feels like I don't know, we're just getting started now. Like we've just assembled the party.
I mean, we're about like 40% in because it's going 2 cours,
right? Anime-wise,
I mean, it is structured like a traditional JRPG, right? Like you get your starting party, then the first climax against the Disc 1 final boss happens, and then you get your new party member.
I mean, you keep saying that as this progresses, but...
Well, I mean...
I know. Yeah, I know, I'm kidding.
It can change, right? But I think it's a deliberate homage to that, just like how this new character is, if I hear it, is supposed to be like a version of the very commonly seen quote-unquote old man, like pervert, drinking, gambling, Mr. Vice guy archetype that you often see in JRPGs.
He'll get to be like, because he is slightly older than Frieren or Stark, so you're going to get some bits where he is like not quite the responsible adult because he is also a drinking and gambling fool, but like a little more so than... He has like a little more emotional intelligence than the kids,
right?
Right, that's the thing, right? This show treats
not necessarily as much as Frieren, but also more than Frieren in some ways, right?
Yeah, like the thing is, the show treats age as a very interesting thing because you have like an old character like Frieren who still has many childish traits, while a young character like Fern is still like young in many ways, but also has some more mature traits.
Yeah.
I think they play with that really well.
Right. Stark is still a kid though.
Oh yeah.
When he was looking, when he's
Fern is.
Those clouds look like boobs. Woo!
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm really enjoying that show even more as it goes on. So
yeah, I'm kind of getting into the leg of a story where I'm like, yep, that definitely happened. They definitely met with that guy, and I don't remember exactly what happens until the next big arc, right?
I can't wait for Frieren to get stuck on a boat for 8 years.
All right. Let's talk about my favorite show this season, Migi and Dali. And Aqua, you caught up with this since we last talked.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have Zig expressed his sadness about not being caught up on the last podcast he was on. So I have been joining him in the journey down the rabbit hole called Migi and Dali.
Did your pie in the sky prediction
cherry pie in the sky?
Yeah.
Not yet, I think. Right? If you're talking about the theory that Gel voiced during the previous episode, that has not yet happened. A lot of other weird stuff has happened.
Okay. Have they gone to the Black Lodge
feeling? Oh, sorry. I don't know what you're saying.
No, they never brought up. Sorry, I need to stop making Twin Peaks jokes, and nobody here has watched Twin Peaks except me.
Yeah, that's going to be lost on us, unfortunately. But
something.
I'm gonna drag somebody through that.
You just have to watch the show. I mean, that's the only solution.
I know, but
go
ahead.
How have you been feeling overall about Aqua? Just because I don't think we've gotten your opinion on it.
I'm not as high on it as Zig, but Zig thinks it's anime of the year material, right? But I think it. I have found.
I'm also kind of in that. I'm kind of getting there myself with it, but yeah.
I just say like I don't have any really explicit criticism of it. It's just it's a show I like. I enjoy it. I like the weird sense of humor it has. I like the absurdity, but I also like the tension and the horror vibes they are going for. It is the thing is like it's not the mystery is not yet on that level where I would actually say that we're dealing with something really special here. But that's not necessarily necessary because we have so much other weird kinds of points of interest in this show, like going from just the sheer bathos of certain scenes, like evil mom going after Migi and Dali with a like loaf of baguette to bludgeon
a hard
them
loaf
to
of bread.
death.
Hey,
Yeah.
Chicken can kill. You hit him
Yeah,
hard
yeah.
enough.
That was the point.
no,
Yes.
I thought the idea was that it's a frozen banana is hard enough to kill you.
I don't know. A lot of frozen things are hard enough to
I think
kill
any
you.
hard
would say-
object, if you try hard
Yeah,
enough, can kill
I
someone.
mean, frozen
but...
bread is still relatively brittle, but I mean, it's the like the image that counts,
Mhm.
right? Of someone
Right.
sneaking up on you, teleporting behind you with
with a loaf
like
of bread.
a loaf of bread. Yeah. Shout out to Comet Lucifer, which also featured a deadly
Oh my
loaf of
God.
bread.
That's a
God,
name I've not heard in a long time.
I haven't thought about that in a long time. Yeah, that lady had a shotgun in that baguette.
Yeah.
No,
She had a grenade in that melon pan.
This was just a baguette, but a very hard one at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, like I said, like aside from the mystery, the show just has many other things to draw you in, from comedy to character development to just sheer weird imagery. It's a people pleaser, which is kind of weird since I have not seen many people pleased with it, aside from here on the GLORIO blog.
it is weird though. Like
It is weird. Yeah,
I don't think everybody's gonna watch this and make it past the beginning.
I mean, the thing is, like, I do find it and this sounds weird because it sounds paradoxical, but it is an accessible kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like, you can see this and be like, "Huh, that's weird," and
it's not just that, like,
makes it funny. It is not an acquired tastes like,
Right.
for example, Under Ninja would be. Like, Under Ninja, I can see that, like, oh, this has to be something you're into. Whereas Migi and Dali is more like JoJo, where you can just be impressed by the creativity on display on a surface level, and you can also look at it from in a more profound way and be like, well, what the hell's going on here?
Sometimes just something insane will happen and you
Right.
can only laugh. Right.
Yeah, like the inherent appeal of something like JoJo is like a character turning to the camera and saying, what is it, like, Mickey is fucking dead or whatever he said. Like,
It's not fucking Disneyland without Mickey.
or something like that. Yeah. And like that is just something that is pretty close to being universally funny. Like,
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's not like the plot of Migi and Dali is hard to follow, or that any of the weird things are like abstract or anything. They're just weird.
It is not mind screwy. Like,
yeah. Yeah, so I mean, that all said, I've really been enjoying the escalation up into this kind of climax these past two episodes. We have the
Migi and Dali's 5-minute retirement.
Yeah, we mentioned last time that a riff had developed because Migi had figured out Dali was catfishing him, and
it's a whole thing.
So Migi goes to live with Bird Guy. I don't even remember if we talked about Bird Guy. I think we did briefly. But...
Yeah. Migi goes to live with Bird Dude. Yeah.
And Dali is determined to still carry out their revenge plan.
Oh, we have not talked about the Halloween episode yet?
No, that was
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I won't get into the details of the plan, but it involves a Halloween costume contest and dropping a giant pumpkin on someone's head.
Dali is going to carry AG.
Yeah, and because I think they're trying to frame it as him. Since he's by himself, he can't really pull it off, and ends up almost killing himself. And
it's like a reverse Super Sentai, the Super Sentai become exponentially stronger the more they are, the more of them there are. Migi and Dali become exponentially more incompetent the fewer of them there are.
Yeah. So
and they're already pretty incompetent when they're together. So.
Yeah, so that kind of sets up the latest episode, which is when things really go down.
I'm sorry, are we just going to talk about the latest episode without mentioning the mosquito costume?
Oh, see, that's the kind of thing people I think need to see to fully understand.
Yes, yeah.
I don't think audio format's going to do justice to that whole Halloween costume.
It's a good indication of what I was talking about, because the whole of the Halloween episode is like a quote-unquote tense revenge murder plot about these two wounded brothers who have grown apart, and one of them goes too far in trying to enact revenge for the both of them.
The thing is, like, it is legitimately
a shot at a normal life, but also they're all dressed in like the dumbest fucking Halloween costumes imaginable.
Like, the thing is, like, it is legitimately those things, but also the kid is dressed in this horrible mosquito costume and is saying these like ridiculous "I'm gonna kill this person" lines. So that's why the show is funny. But so it kind of culminates in the latest episode where things really go down. I mean, it's no shock who the real villain is here. We've known it.
I do hope there is another twist, right? Because this is quite obvious. Like.
Yeah, and this leads to, I think Zig described they managed a top 10 anime comeback.
And top 10 saddest anime deaths in
5 minutes. Yes, because we get. If you recall, the past couple of times we've been talking about the maid that was the friend of the boys, and we didn't know what happened to her, and
it was heavily implied that she was murdered by Mom because she discovered the evil dollhouse.
Like, and she should have been murdered, but so spoilers here, but I feel like I have to say this on tape. She was apparently buried alive, but dug herself out.
Oh, okay.
As you do.
And this leads to a big scare quotes epic battle with with the true killer here, which ends in her then eventually actually getting stabbed in the neck, which I appreciate. The show has not pulled its punches when it shouldn't be pulling its punches. So.
Yeah, which is like genuinely gruesome. Like it is weird and funny because the maid fights with a mop, until the very end when she just gets shanked in the neck.
She just gets literally stabbed in the neck. And there's blood everywhere, and so that all happened, and we kind of leave off at the end with and we get some explanation on what the deal was with the mom and a little bit more. My theory that so I didn't actually put this on tape. I mentioned it in our Discord chat, but I did not put this on tape, so I'll put it on tape now.
Right.
My theory was that the rich kid that they had been following around was actually like their third brother, and that they were possibly triplets, because with no other evidence other than there was one weird conversation where he said something about people's hair changing from blonde to like black or whatever, because he has black hair and the twins have blonde hair, but they otherwise kind of look the same.
I mean, there is precedent for this, because these episodes do reveal that AG's mom is, sort of assembling a perfect family, right? Because it is revealed that AG's younger sister is not the biological child of his mother and his father, but rather a child the mother kidnapped / blackmailed into joining her family.
Basically she can't have kids, so she's trying to assemble a perfect family, and and in her dying words, the maid is like, AG is actually your ... and then bleeds out. So I was too afraid to put that theory on recording before, and now I feel like it's practically confirmed. But and
also,
go ahead. And I was just going to say, we leave off finally with the post-credits scene of now the after the maid was murdered, they're now trying to frame the twins as the ones that committed the murder. That's where we've left off,
because the twins are like forced to flee the town, which is very funny because their town looks like every town, small town America, but as soon as they flee, they just end up in regular ass rural Japan.
It's like in rural Japan. They stay in like a shrine.
End up in the Inaka,
and they have the because they still have their issues to work out. They have their fist fight in the rain,
homoerotic fist fight in the riverbed,
in the like the Japanese rural riverbed.
Sure. Your Yosuke rank 10 social link.
Yes, exactly. because the whole conflict has been that the older brother is still hell-bent on revenge, while the other brother, A, hates him because he catfished him, and B, just wants to go back home and eat cherry pie with their new family, right? So
the family still think that they're one person, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Although it feels like that's going to very soon get revealed. But the rich family knows now that they're two people, right? Like that they were. Some people do know that they're two people now,
okay,
but not their adoptive family yet. So a lot going on. It's all very funny and weird, and sometimes disturbing in a combination that I'm very much enjoying. And I said a couple episodes ago, a lot of how this ends is going to determine my final opinion, I think, because it is a murder mystery story and everything. Like, it's a little more
the
important
thing is
than usual,
going to be like, are they going to go for a straight on thriller mystery ending, or are they going to do something weird, right? Like, yeah. I think those are the two options.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel a lot more encouraged now with the direction we've gone, and we'll just kind of have to see what they do in the end. So.
God, there's also so much stuff we haven't even talked about yet.
Oh, in Migi and Dali, or just the rest of our list?
Yeah, no, in Migi and Dali.
I don't want to go through every single thing. I think people just watch it and enjoy it. Those are just kind of the big points of what was happening and stuff we like.
Gel, this was a bit of a point of discussion between Zig and I, but what do you think the role of the two side characters, by which I mean Bird Boy and Beaverhead Boy, what will their role be in the grand finale?
Oh, I totally forgot about the Beaver Kid. I guess he does show up briefly in the Halloween thing, right?
Yeah,
but he's kind of
Bird
irrelevant.
Boy is going to fly, right? He's going to fly to save them or something.
Yeah, he's going to have some kind of heroic thing where he flies
and have his wings burned by the
save
sun.
him. No, I think he'll be. I think he'll be okay. I don't think they're going to kill him off, but I don't know if the other kid's going to matter.
That's the thing, right? I think he is, but Zig thinks he's just a generic, like, mean kid who was a villain in one episode.
In your defense, the fact that we did see him again, does mean that maybe he will have some. I mean, is it going to be he repents because he was like a total asshole, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
Is he going to repent?
The thing is, like, he is the one loose end, I guess. Like, it's kind of weird because they only explored a single other house aside from the one where they actually found what they wanted to find.
Yeah,
which was Beaver Boy's house.
Is he gonna have a redemption arc where he saves them as well?
Is there like a clear number of houses left to investigate?
No, they've already found the killers and everything. So we basically know what happened. There's some details that still need to get filled in.
It's only like set up to the finale now. They just have to, take out the big bad and learn the truth.
Yeah, I mean, there's still some details to fill in, like what the exact relationship of their mother was to the family and everything. But
also, a very important thing that Zig points out: how come Eiji did not recognize their mom? Because she was their housekeeper, right?
I think he did, though, didn't he?
No, he explicitly did not recognize the woman.
People don't pay attention to the help.
I guess so, yeah.
I mean, he was also only like 5 years old.
Right, that is true.
So, I mean, there's a lot of people I knew when I was 5 that I would not recognize right now.
It's true. But then again, you would also not hold on to like weird grudges about your pajamas that you wore when you were 5.
Hell, I wouldn't.
I would still carry the trauma about murdering a woman, though.
Yes.
So there is that. So who knows? But it's a good show. I'm enjoying it. And I hope they stick the landing.
Yep.
Okay. Let's talk about we've put it back on the list for today and today only, because Artemis, you're still watching this, right? The Yuzuki family's 4 sons.
Yeah, I mean, clearly it's got nothing on Migi and Dali, but it's surprisingly, because I thought I was going to drop this after the first I don't know, I think 3 episodes, I was like, no, it's probably not going to really go anywhere else. Like, I'm good. And, it hasn't really gone anywhere else, but I am good. Like, with continuing to watch, I guess. I do still think it's a bit over the top sometimes, and I still don't think it's like an especially subtle show, but something about it just kind of charms me. I don't know. I feel like also the character who was most obnoxious, which is one of the middle brothers, like the most typical kind of anime character, I guess, with his hot-headed persona and everything, kind of gets less annoying the more you get to know him, which is nice.
Okay. That's encouraging.
And they give him a bit more thematic depth than just he's hot-headed and annoyed at his older brother all the time because he feels like he's treated like the younger one. And, I don't know. I feel like that was kind of a weak way to start off. I think the anime would have been better served if it had started off with a different storyline.
Right.
But I don't know.
I'm assuming they because I watched, I think, the first 2 episodes, because I remember they did, because they start out coming in hot with the one brother you're talking about, and then they kind of talk a little bit about the other middle brother, and I'm assuming every brother gets an episode or whatever.
Yeah, everyone gets like the kind of more hot-headed middle brother gets the most screen time still, but everyone does get their own episodes. I think one of my favorite, weirdly, because I thought I would absolutely hate it, episodes is when they kind of tease a love interest for the annoying middle brother and his best friend, the redhead, who
like the neighbor or besties.
That they live. I mean, it seems like a fairly not rural, but like suburban kind of, you all know each other if you go to the same school kind of thing,
right?
And they kind of start, it's like a double episode actually, because she starts dating, like someone confesses to her at school, and so she dates him because she didn't know what else to do, so she was like, yep.
Right.
And the date, like the brother follows her on the date because, and not out of jealousy, but just because he doesn't really know what's going on, and so he follows her mostly. So it's not because I thought it would be like a jealous thing,
right?
And it isn't really that. It's this. He has no concept of what dating even entails.
I mean, these kids are also like 12, right?
Right. To the point where like a genuinely comedic moment is that they're looking up on their phones, like, what does it mean when 2 people date, and they get like flustered when they realize that it might involve more than just like eating at a restaurant or whatever.
Right. How to date, wiki how to date.
Yeah, basically they do that, which is pretty funny. And then it turns out that even though they think from an outsider's perspective, they think the date is going well, in the second episode it's revealed that she has broken up with him, with the guy who asked her out, because she was just wildly unhappy because that he let rip an innocent yet extremely hurtful comment like, oh, but you're so beautiful. Why don't you just act more like a girl? Why do you always sit with your legs open and wear pants all the time? And to the main character's credit, he's like, that asshole, like, you're fine the way you are. Like, you don't, like, if he doesn't like you the way you dress, you should just like fuck that guy, basically. And that was a really nice moment.
Yeah, that's great. Sure.
Yeah.
And then that was that, drama over.
Yeah, I feel like that some of those can be kind of funny when you get like the younger kids trying to figure out what is a date and stuff like that. That can be kind of fun.
Right. I think it reeled me in because I thought I would just absolutely hate both of those episodes, and they just handled it surprisingly well. And that kind of drew me back in. So,
I guess talking about like the melodrama stuff, did do they ever go back and keep dipping into like the dead parent stuff, or is that just
they do, because the next set of episodes is about a school visitation when the parents are supposed to show up to your school and watch a class like in session. And so this is to do with the youngest brother.
The really young one, right? That's like
who's still at elementary school. Yeah, he's still a grade schooler. And he decides not to tell any of his family that there's a school visitation because he knows his older brother works and he doesn't want to put the responsibility on him to take time off to go see an elementary school class in session. And it all happened exactly as you probably think.
I'm playing the scenes in my head.
Yeah, right it's extremely predictable. You know exactly what's going to happen. But I don't know, predictability aside, I think it's still handled pretty well. They never dip into the tragedy in such an overblown way that you're just rolling your eyes going, yeah, I get it, died, etc. Like there are some moments. In fact, there are some moments. I like the fact that the flashbacks, when they do flashbacks are not especially long. It's just a couple of seconds, like literally 1 or 2 seconds of one character remembering, like someone holding their hand at a funeral, or you know what I mean? Like a tiny moment that would, I think, stick with you in a in the middle of your grief kind of way.
And that can be
especially thinking back when a lot of these kids were considerably younger. Like the youngest, does not remember. Like he has no memories of his parents, right?
Right.
And the next kids up do obviously have a lot stronger memories of their parents, but only kind of snippets here and there. And those snippets come back in these very, very small self-contained flashbacks that are actually really touching because they do feel realistic.
Right. Yeah, I really appreciate
belaboring it.
Yeah. I feel like over the years, more and more, I'm more and more annoyed with long flashbacks.
Right.
It can be just as, if not more effective than just to have like key moments popped in, right? So that's
the anime does a lot of key moments, but they're never belabored and they're always sprinkled fairly far apart. So you never get like an episode dump of just like, look at how traumatized all these kids are. They lost their parents to anime disease or whatever. Like,
right.
So it's. I don't know if you to anyone who watched it and just flat out hated the first few episodes, it's probably not worth going back because you probably still won't like it. But if you were kind of on the fence about it, I would encourage people to give it a second look, just because I do think it does grow on you as it goes on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and maybe shows like a little more depth here and there than people might have given it credit for.
Yeah, and it's just nice to. I mean, it's kind of a feel-good kind of show too, right? Like just
it's generally like, I know I was just talking about death and everything, but it is generally speaking a pretty feel-good show. It's not like a healing show, I would say, but it is one of those quote-unquote hardcore kind of slice of life shows where you know that everything's going to be okay at the end. So
okay. Well, as I've said before, I probably would have been watching this last season when I was watching Last Things, but
right. I'm sure we might have all been,
But that's still. I'm glad it's keeping up the quality. All right. Well,
speaking of shows, I might have been still watching last season.
Yes,
Iro, I believe on this current podcast, you are the last man standing for Bullbuster at this
point. I am.
Unless you said you dropped out. You dropped out this week.
This week was the week I was like, no, stop it. Right. I'm not gonna. I have stuff to do.
But you did see the episode where Muto gets into Bullbuster and
yes, I did. Yeah.
Which is like sort of too little, too late. Like
that, and I didn't like the ending.
Right. So
what happened?
Oh, sorry.
It was just the episode itself was fine, like whatever, but at the end because the story arc is kind of resolved about what's her face and her dog.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I just wish they had pulled back on the emotion a bit. Like,
so like melodramatic.
Bullbuster works. Yeah, I think it works best when they show emotional moments, but it's a bit understated still. Right. And there's just this one scene near the very end of that episode where they zoom in on her face, and you know that she is about to cry. Like, it's fairly obvious that she's about to cry, and they just like hold the camera on her face, and then I was like, pull away, and then you see the tear come down on camera, and you ruined that scene for me. You know, like just small moments like that where it's enough. It's enough. We get it. Everyone understands. You don't need to actually show it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they do. And it's like, you know, you kind of ruined the whole, you know, the whole moment there.
Yeah. The sort of plot thing going on in these episodes is that the higher-ups of their, like, company, the, like, parent company, it's, yeah, because I guess they've been like contracted by
right
the larger conglomerate to do this work, and like Shiota Pharmaceuticals, and now the higher ups there are like taking a closer interest in their activities and are basically offering a buyout, like an acquisition, which some of the people in the company really want because it means they will have money. You know, they won't be scrimping and saving at all times anymore. And other people are opposed because then now they will have like a bunch of dumb corporate oversight and can't do the things that they made this company to do in the first place.
Maybe our job might not be quite as rewarding anymore.
Right.
Because corporate buyouts have never gone wrong. I've never gone wrong, right? Like,
yes. Also, it's sort of becoming implied that possibly the who could have seen this coming, possibly the monsters are the result of the corporate stuff in the first place. Like they were doing experiments.
Oh yeah, of course.
Because of course
I am shocked. I tell you, never saw it.
I mean, come on, what are we doing here?
Gasp! Yeah. Yeah, it's nothing mind-boggling. No, like it's all sort of within expectations. They do introduce the aquatic robot Bull Duck, which
okay.
I think Bull Duck is cool, but Bull Duck doesn't do anything.
It sounds like a Pokemon, and I might go watch a clip just to see it. But
it's sort of has a duck bill ish.
Do you have to have a boat license to pilot Boat Duck or Bull Duck?
Good question. I don't know, but
I mean, seeing that has been the most pivotal plot point for half the series.
But it is sort of, we're sort of getting into the second act misunderstandings of our dark point where everyone's at each other's throats because we have this data about what's causing the beasts and how it might be related to Shiota, but we acquired this data illegally, and so do we, whistle blow on the company that's about to buy us out? Do we let ourselves get bought out to, achieve financial solvency, etc.? And it's fine, right? It's just kind
of does anything funny happen?
There is a segment where Muto, the big old guy, right? Who's finally out of the hospital, is the only one who can launch in the robot. And so, like, as the top suits come by to do their investigation of the company and what they do, Muto is the one out fighting monsters, and because he is an old man who doesn't know how to work this wireless shit or whatever, he like takes off his headset, and so he is just. It's a pretty fun segment that I wish was earlier in the show, where he's just, tackling and punching this monster, hooting and hollering and trampling,
completely cussing out,
swearing at the storm, stomping over the fences.
That was genuinely my favorite moment of the entire series so far. I think it was just a good time.
This CEO is standing there watching on the monitor, stone-faced. Muto's just saying like, "Oh, you fucking shithead, I'm gonna kill you," right? And like smashing up their water plant that was on the corner of the island, throwing around, and everyone else is just staring.
Right, and then they finally managed to get the message across that people are listening, and he's like, I mean, aha, I shall smite thee in the name, like,
yes,
trying to be like overly formal.
Yeah, and that's like that's the sort of fun stuff that really should have been in here, like episode 3.
If we had more of that, we'd be good, right? Like,
but you know, getting an episode like 8 is like, it's not really enough. Yeah. I mean, I'll see it through to the end at this point, but it's like,
you guys are committed.
It's just kind of
you've finished way worse things.
Sure have.
So, all right. Well, I guess speaking of things, I'm not sure why I'm still watching, but that's maybe a little harsh.
Let's
talk about Under Ninja.
Yeah. I'm still broadly enjoying it, but it's the plot is starting to get away from itself, I think.
Yeah. Broadly speaking, these last 2 episodes have been like the build up to whatever
the sort of the ninja civil war final battle or something is
ninja versus Under Ninja battle at this high school. And the first of the 2 episodes was kind of like the preparation, everybody like realizing it's going to go down and getting ready for it, and all the lead up to it was like, all right, I'm down for, you know, ninja battle royale, whatever. I'm excited to see the guy in the Kuroneko delivery truck in his cardboard mech suit. You know, let's do this. And then at least the beginning, okay, I don't know if it's just me and just me not liking this type of violence, but rather than a ninja battle royale, is like more like a school shooting kind of vibe.
I feel like it's very intentionally so, right?
Because, like intentionally,
like, the villain of this is like from in Ninja High School, he was like bullied and like made fun of at Ninja High School, and so yes, he is basically a ninja school shooter arriving at a regular high school, and
Kuro even does the "Don't come to school tomorrow" line at some point. And he proceeds to just walk in and like graphically murder a lot of innocent children.
See, and I totally get where you're coming from, but there's like a part of me that finds this darkly hilarious.
I understand that's what they're going for. I don't feel like that necessarily came across fully in the presentation of the
it's kind
anime.
Of grim, right?
And it seems just like a really cheap way to make you hate this guy. Like, he is supposed to be this like I think they're trying to build it up as like you really want Kuro and the other ninjas to take this guy out because he's a complete waste of, you know, existence. But God, what a lazy way to do it. Like, he just walks in and like, it's pretty. I mean, it's not the most graphic thing I've seen, but I mean, it's pretty like explicit. Like, he's just walking in, chopping people's heads off, and these are like
killing teens, right?
innocent 15-year-olds, right? Like, who are completely defenseless. And I personally am pretty sensitive to violence against children. I do not want to see it at all. Like, it's certainly not this openly, and I just did not enjoy that at all. I understand what they were going for with this is part of the like sort of absurdly dark humor of the show, but I just personally turned me off a lot with all of that. I was very annoyed and frustrated at like clearly all of the, because he's under ninja, right? Because there's ninja versus under ninja. That's basically the only thing I've
supplied with like the next level invisibility gear or what have you.
So the only thing I think I do know is that this battle is between ninja and under ninja, right?
Yeah.
And all the ninja side with like Kuro and everybody, like they knew this was going to happen, but nobody's there. Like they're still like getting there, and then like I don't know.
I think the idea is that Under Ninja has sent this dude to like be a big, loud distraction.
Right.
While whatever their real objective is happening at the other school or elsewhere. And Kuro's the one who is sort of cotton on to that and is taking, a squad there to deal with that.
Yeah.
But it's not super clear, right? I'm guessing that is the case.
I don't think they've told us like what any of their objectives are or anything. It's just that there is something that they're trying to distract them from, right? And it's just I don't know. It's like the show has been giving me like little grains of things that I like, but overall I feel like the whole package has been a hot mess. And this particular episode, for my personal taste, it was just like very distasteful to me. So I don't know. At this point, I am also committed. Right. I'll finish it. I mean, we only have maybe 4 episodes left or something.
It's just it is like the darkest possible way to expand on the Ninja Yearbook joke, right? Of like.
Yes,
Ninja Yearbook, Ninja High School graduation, Ninja School Shooter, right? Like,
yeah, and it's like I don't feel like whatever payoff they were going for was worth going that route, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll keep going with it. I don't know if you have any other thoughts, Iro, at this point, but
not particularly. I'm. And now that we're in the like sort of normal, now that it's been regular for several episodes, I'm at the time I was like, I'm okay. I guess I'm okay with this, with the time switching stuff in the first half of the show. But then now that we're in regular stuff, I'm like, why did we do that? Actually,
exactly.
Actually, no, it was dumb.
Would you be surprised if next episode we're just like a month in the past talking to the head ninja lady or something? Like,
we can't do that. We can't feel like there's anymore.
I feel like there's like at least a 50% chance that's going to happen.
Christ,
now that it's all going down, because that's been the show's pattern so far.
Yeah,
and then maybe we'll come back to this in the last episode or something. Like I think it's a 50-50 toss up whether or not that happens next episode. So. And that actually might make me drop it if I start the next episode and we see that clock appear again. I might just shut it off. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Let's close things out talking about Pluto.
Have you watched this Artemis or no?
No, I haven't seen a single.
Okay.
Not a second.
That's fair.
I saw the trailer at some point.
Sure.
Like before it released. But other than that, no, I have not.
It is very good.
We're up to what, episode 5?
I honestly, if I had more time, I know that's what everyone says about every anime they don't want to watch. Oh, if I have more time, but no, I mean, I would give it a go, and I may well give it a try at some point.
It's good. I will say it is intimidating because of Netflix dropping all the episodes, and they are hour-long episodes.
Yeah.
So even though it's only 8 episodes, it's still like a equivalent of like 20 normal episodes or something. But yeah. So we should clarify, because all the episodes are out and we are watching at our own pace, that we would be referring to episodes 4 and 5,
right,
for this podcast.
What did you think about these episodes, Jel? Because I've read the manga, you have not read the manga.
Yes. So, I guess spoilers. There's a lot going on. Spoilers. Astro Boy's dead, right?
Yes. The Pluto has come for Astro Boy, for Atom, and he
did not fare any better than the others. We get a lot of Adolf.
Yes, Gesicht and the dude from the robot KKK.
Yes, so
the anti-robot faction cult.
We get a lot of back and forth with that. More unveiling of Geshik's past and the kind of key information about that he also might have killed people. Well, he did actually confirm that at some point.
Yes, perhaps Geshik does killed somebody.
Yeah, which is of course a big deal for robots.
Do you remember in episode 2 when Astro asked for Geshik's memory chip? And then immediately went to the bathroom and cried.
Yeah. It's all piecing together. Again, we want to contrast what we just talked about under Ninja. Like, this is how you do multiple storylines happening at the same time and weaving them together, right? Like,
right.
It's so much better at it. But yeah, so there was all that with the Geshik, and I'm trying to remember what. Oh, and then we had
Dr. Tenma has appeared.
Dr. Tenma makes an appearance, which is very funny to me. The way they tried to still make him very eccentric, but in the Pluto more realistic sort of art style, right? Like, so now he just looks like Gendo Ikari with like an old man pompadour,
with a big nose, like
having
Tenma be this like crazy AI like sicko, right? Who just wants to make the perfect AI at any cost, right?
Yeah, and I think Tenma, he had like one of the standout moments I think for me was Tenma's flashback to talking to Adam.
That is, to me, like the scene of the whole manga to me.
Yeah, that was such a powerful scene, because as anybody with any level of Astro Boy knowledge knows, Dr. Tenma made Astro Boy as like a replacement for his dead son, right?
Yes.
And they kind of bring that element into it, and where, you know, he realizes that he has created a robot and he has not created his son, right? And it's like everything that's been going on is just like distilled into like that one scene, right? Like all the questions and themes and everything. It's very, very good.
They do a really, I don't remember if this was how it was in the manga, if they moved some scenes around for this, but at least in the anime, I thought it was like a really great directorial choice of Tenma is talking to Ochanomizu about like how he made a robot once that had a perfect AI that simulated all human beings that would never wake up because there's just too many things to simulate, and that the way to make a robot in this situation wake up is to unbalance the emotions and instill it with negative emotions, to instill with hatred or sorrow or anger. And they specifically, he's like, wait, is that what you're doing to Atom now, who is dead, like, or, you know, unconscious? It's like, are you instilling with hatred? You might make a monster. You know, Tenma is like, I might have created a monster. And then we immediately cut to the scene where his flashback where he's talking to Atom, and like,
yes, that's very,
you know, good. It's like, from his own point of view, he's already created a monster, right?
Right.
This is not what he wanted at all, right?
Yeah, it's so good because everything that so just to explain, like, he's asking Adam, oh, how was your day? They're having dinner or whatever. And Adam was like saying typical nice little boy stuff, right?
I had a great time. I love this dinner. I found a cool encyclopedia about insects in my room that I was reading, and they're so cool.
And I don't know if we can't really do it justice explaining
it. Yeah.
We can't really do it justice explaining on a podcast, but when you watch it, and it's kind of the same thing I talked about last time. It's not the same thing, but kind of the same idea, I guess. Last time when I was talking about Pluto and the flowers growing, and it's like this beautiful moment, but you're also terrified. Like in this situation too, like Adam is talking about all this fun, happy little boy stuff, and I wouldn't say you're terrified, but you're kind of creeped out, and you understand, as crazy as what Tenma is saying, like you kind of understand what he means, right?
Yeah,
and it's so good.
It's great. Yeah,
and I think that's just one example. One of if it's the best example, it's certainly one of the examples of what's so great about Pluto, right? But
and then Dr. Tenma sold Astro Boy to the circus.
Yeah. So yeah, so there's a lot of things, a lot of plot threads open now at this point.
Gesicht is interviewing the former king of Persia,
interviewing Saddam Hussein. It's literally Saddam Hussein.
I know. Oh my goodness.
And it's not even like, again, this is another thing we talked about last time. It's not subtle at all. They want you to know.
Yes.
And it's all very good. Gesicht is kind of falling apart himself.
Yes.
And
he's starting to remember,
as he's starting to remember things and just blatantly disobeying orders.
What did happen? What could have driven Gesicht to kill that man?
Yeah. We're getting a murder mystery we didn't even know we had at the beginning.
I think it's like core to the story, but I still think it's very funny that like even the human supremacist anti-robot KKK psychos look at whoever that dude's brother, and even they are like, oh no, that dude was scum who deserved to die. Yeah.
If there's one thing everybody universally agrees on, is that Adolf Haas's brother deserved to die. Like, what kind of terrible person was he?
Who knows?
Yeah, and we don't know as the viewers. I mean, there's some hint that he was killing robots at some point, but I'm guessing there's probably more to it than that. But so yeah, a lot going on. I feel like we're really getting into the meat of the story and the themes and everything.
Ramping up to the end here.
Really building up to it. So, we're at episode 5 of 8, right? So,
yeah. I will again recommend once you're finished watching, you should go and read the original Astro Boy arc.
Yes, I will definitely do that once we're finished. And you know what? Final shout out to Hercules. Who went out swinging
like a boss.
Went out like a boss. When his like headless human body shows up and jumps in the water, I was like, oh man,
he's gonna keep it going.
Yeah, what a champ.
Oh yeah, what do you think about the strange like teddy bear that has appeared a couple times?
Oh yeah, I guess I haven't really thought about that too much, but that is weird. The exposition teddy bear that has shown up a couple times, so I'm assuming that's similar to whatever's ever powering the service bot that told Haas to kill Gesicht, but maybe I don't know.
We'll get there. We'll find out.
Yeah. So Pluto's pretty great.
It's good. Still
Get
good.
That in before you make it. Put everybody out there, before you make any anime of the year decisions, you might want to put that in. But yeah. All right. So I think that's going to do it for this episode.
Yeah.
We can get to our housekeeping. You can check us out at theglorioblog.com.
Mm-hmm.
Go take a look at Zig's post he wrote about 25-year anniversary of Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and his personal love for that game, and how it is, or at least it has been considered by many people to be the greatest video game of all time. Like, if you were going to look for some kind of consensus on that question, that is definitely one of them up there. And that's a very good post you can go check out.
Follow us. Hot takes on theglorioblog.com.
Yes, hot takes on games made that came out 25 years ago. Hot takes. Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is good. Yeah, you heard it here, folks, first. But check that out. You can follow us on Twitter at theglorioblog, on co-host at GLORIO, right?
I think so.
I think so. I think we're just at GLORIO.
Yeah, I think it's just at GLORIO. I managed to grab that. Yep. And you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Amazon Music, Podbean, Stitcher, and of course YouTube, where you can like, comment, subscribe. Tell us, what we got right. Tell us what we got wrong. Of course, we are never wrong, but you can try. And tell your friends, tell your enemies, and we'll catch up for next time.